Hey everybody, welcome back to Illiterate Book Club. I'm Matt,
I'm John.
and this is our review of Godzilla.
Just opened tonight. We just saw it.
Yeah, the King of Monsters.
King of Monsters. Long live
Long live the
the
King.
King.
Okay, so starting off, just initial, did you like it or did you not like it?
I liked it. I
Okay.
have a general positive feeling about this one.
Yeah, I do too. So I guess get more specifically, specifically, is that a word?
Sure,
Specific.
We'll go with it. Specific.
Anyways, so what do you think of like the production and everything?
I thought the production was great. I mean, effects, they obviously put a
Right.
lot of money into the effects. I mean, you got just this whole movie's full of monsters.
Right, it's definitely a big like kaiju type movie.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
It's
And
huge.
so what's great is that the special effects, like, and a lot of times for special heavy movies,
Mhm.
you can lose track of things. Like Transformers is sort of notorious for like being so much going on that you lose
Right.
sight of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
But I felt like they kept it really clear.
Yeah, it was very even though it was a dark movie, they kept the camera wide enough that you saw what was going on for most of the part.
And especially massive, like, each of these monsters is just huge.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the scale of the movie. I guess kind of hopping off of that visual effects, I thought the cinematography was beautiful. Like some of the shots were just like a perfect picture. It would be an amazing poster to have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And capturing where the characters were and capturing emotional moments.
Yeah.
They did really well on that.
Right, I loved it, which I think it's from the commercial, so it's not really a spoiler, but the whole Mothra, like when it came open, its wings at the
yeah.
very beginning was super cool. And then I guess, what is it? What's the main one called? Ghidorah? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the main villain.
Yeah, the whole, just like I said, a lot of that's from the commercials, but like multiple pictures of this or multiple scenes could make amazing pictures.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to go to next? What are you thinking?
I mean, we can talk about the acting a bit.
Yeah.
I thought solid acting from everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
there may have been a little bit of stiltedness in some of it when
Yeah.
there was exposition.
Right.
I mean, there was a few. It's a sci-fi monster movie, so there's gonna be exposition,
Yeah.
and so there was a couple of those moments. But I felt like the flow of it was pretty smooth with the acting.
Right. Well, I mean, this is spoiler-free review, so I won't go too deep into it. But I thought some of the character development, I guess, coming from the last movie, like I just didn't. I mean, which I know it was kind of there was kind of some misdirection that was going on, and I felt like some of it didn't necessarily click. If that makes sense, like I didn't exactly buy the motives of certain characters.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, of course, from the first movie, the main characters from the first movie aren't in this movie.
Right.
The soldier with his family.
I thought the two main actors were, but maybe I wasn't. Okay.
So the main characters in this movie were not in the first movie.
Okay. It's been a long time.
So
since
the
I saw
family
first one.
so Millie Bobby Brown, which is
Yeah.
who played 11, plays the daughter in this.
Yeah, so she wasn't. I know she wasn't in the movie. I
Yeah,
just thought
she
the
wasn't,
parents were.
and the parents may have been in the background, but like the other scientist, the main
Right.
scientist character who's also there,
Mm-hmm.
he was there in the first one.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other like monarch
Right.
characters were kind of there in the background, but they weren't like center stage in the first one.
Yeah, and I think that maybe it was just like kind of misreading the commercials a little bit or the marketing.
Right.
But I mean, it wasn't a bad situation. It was just like I questioned some of the logic that was going on.
I can see that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, as far as the story or the characters go.
But they did like have some characters that harken back to the older movies, and I think as a whole, like development wise, for like the monsters themselves kind of have a character to them. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
The Gojira, like Godzilla, as opposed to other previous Godzillas where, you had some kind of arc develop in the older movies, but in general, you didn't really, he was just the monster that showed up and destroyed everything.
Yeah,
But
that's
in this
true.
one, they kind of played a plot with
Right, and some of
him and some of the other monsters.
some of the almost facial like expressions, if that makes sense,
Right.
like the body language that you kind of got from them, and they did really good with using their eyes to tell, like, convey emotion even for the monsters. I guess that can kind of lead us into the storytelling part, the plot. I mean, what was your overall opinions on that?
I thought it was good. I mean, it definitely had more plot to it than the first one, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it came to talking about the monsters and world building, right?
Yeah.
You had that tie-in with they tied it to old mythologies, like what these titans, which they're calling the monsters in this movie.
Right.
And so you had that kind of interesting world building part of the story, and then you also, I thought they anchored it pretty well with the relationships of the family that were the front and center parts. You know, we had the daughter's tension between mom and dad who were divorced. And it wasn't like cliched either. Like that's like a cliche that gets thrown into movies, having like divorced parents with a child kind of like torn between them, and they didn't really play heavy on that.
Right, it was just like, again, I guess gave you background on what was going on.
Exactly,
but it didn't I guess hammer on it too much.
Yeah, and I think they did really well of just putting enough background for those characters to give them some emotional depth without being too cheesy. I mean, you think like that was one of my problems with Jurassic World, right? Yeah. They had that tension with the siblings. I mean, they had these emotional characters, that backgrounds, and it was just too much. It really didn't play out very well. Yeah. But this one, I felt they gave it enough weight. Yeah. So that it gave it some emotional anchoring in the story, but at the same time, this is still a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, it is a Godzilla movie. Obviously, the action was spectacular,
and that's where the focus is.
Right, that's the biggest part. I do feel like for me, the storytelling was probably, and it wasn't necessarily bad, but it was probably the weakest element for me of the movie.
Sure.
And there was some pacing issues, I felt like, especially in the beginning. Once we kind of got wrapped into the story, it was an absolutely enjoyable movie. So and it was made for the big screen. So if you are into these type of movies, then it's probably for you. If you like big monster movies, if you like Pacific Rim type movies, you will enjoy this movie just on the action side. And it wasn't overtly cheesy like a lot of disaster movies can be.
Definitely not.
But for me, it wasn't just like top-notch storytelling.
Well, sure. Plot, I mean, and of course, like if you're like me, a long-time Godzilla fan, I mean, you're not coming to this movie expecting these Oscar depth performances.
Yeah.
It's it is about the monsters, but also like I thought they hit the key points where they needed to, which was the world building.
Yeah.
They really like gave more depth and to what this world is, what these monsters are to each other and to humanity. And really, I guess for story-wise, to kind of tell towards the end, not to give anything away, which if you follow this stuff, it's not a surprise, they've led into King Kong versus Godzilla, which they didn't,
they just had snippets.
They seeded it really well.
Right.
And just like I said, they put it in there, but this movie doesn't depend on the next movie.
Yeah, and I think that's like other movies like The Mummy from Universal really suffered from that. Like, oh, we're creating this universe, and they tried to be like, okay. They, instead of telling a good story here, they were literally just looking forward to the next world.
Yeah, they got distracted from what they were doing, what they were trying to do next, to really focus on what happened there.
Right.
And Godzilla definitely doesn't do that mistake.
Yeah, and the biggest improvement that I see overall, and like I said, I don't think I'm quite as sold on this movie. Maybe I'm not as huge of a Godzilla fan as you are. But that being said, the biggest thing that it does over the last one is it's just not boring. The last one was boring to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe same thing. It was, the last movie had, almost an hour's worth of
not
plot development. Building up to Godzilla.
Yeah,
and then when Godzilla finally showed up, you just had this one drawn out sort of fight scene.
And it might have been because of budget issues. I don't know.
Well, also I think was the first of this establishing world, right?
Right.
I mean, so now we're into it. You had King Kong, and now this is the third movie in this world.
Right.
And they're, putting a lot more into it. I thought King Kong was good.
King Kong was pretty good. I like this better than King Kong.
This King of Monsters is...
It was less cheesy than King Kong, a King of Kong.
Right.
But, okay, so to wrap this up, what's your overall score out of 10?
So me being a Godzilla fan, I'm probably going to lean a little higher. I mean, I'm going to give it in the realm of monster movie Godzilla's, 8.5 to 9. Like I really love this as a fan of this genre.
Gotcha.
And I think they did a really solid job, especially over more recent Godzilla iterations. and I think it really does a good job of setting up for the next movie and maybe even future movies coming down the road.
So I think I can't exactly remember. I think I brought the score down a little bit from John Wick Chapter 3. I know a lot of people love John Wick Chapter 3, but that's just, I liked it. It wasn't my opinion that I loved it. I think the things that bothered me about John Wick brought the score down a lot. Right. So I think I would keep it at like the fresh side, and that you should go see it. It would probably be a little lower, like maybe like a 7.4 or something like that.
Sure. So if you're a fan or you're not a fan, it's definitely a must see in the theaters.
Yeah, if you're a fan or not, if you're just a fan of the action genre, then go see this type thing. If you
great special effects.
If you expect to be like a super moved and touched as like a drama, then this is probably not the movie.
You're not
going
to care about Godzilla by the end of it.
It's a blockbuster, and that's great because it's the summer. Right. So anyways, thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate all the new subscribers.
If you've seen it already, let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.